Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Dalita Sri Vishadhanam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prasannatma, Balaram Prabhuji, Dandat Pranams.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandat Pranams to you.
Dandat Pranams, Prabhuji. Just let me spotlight everyone. Hare Krishna devotees, Dandat Pranams to all. We welcome all of you for the today's morning program, Nityam Bhagavatha Sevaya. And today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Prasannatma Balaram Prabhu, and he will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, and verses 16 and 17. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So I hope my voice is okay. You're able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So devotees, Dandat Pranams to all of you. And before we get started, kindly excuse me. I have a little bit of a throat problem, so you'll have to bear with this voice of mine. So we'll get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Okay. So like Prabhu was saying, so we look at these two verses, 5.5.16 and 17. Lokasvayam shreyasi nashtadrishtir yo arthan samiheta nikama kamaha anyonya vairaha sukalesha hetur ananta dukkam chanaveda mudana mudaha. So the synonyms are lokaha, people, swayam, personally, shreyasi, of the path of auspiciousness, nashtadrishtihi, that is, who have lost sight, yaha, who, arthan, things meant for sense gratification. Samiheta, desire. Nikama, kamaha, having too many lusty desires for sense enjoyment. Anyonya, vairaha, being envious of one another. Sukhalesha, hetoho, simply for temporary material happiness. Ananta dukkham, unlimited sufferings. Cha, also. Na, do not. Veda, no. Moodaha, foolish. So translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his self-interest. The auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. And then the purport Prabhupada is saying, the word Nashta Drishtihi means one who has no eyes to see the future. Is very significant in this verse. Life goes on from one body to another, and the activities performed in this life are enjoyed or suffered in the next, if not later in this life. One who is unintelligent, who has no eyes to see the future, simply creates enmity and fights with others for sense gratification. As a result, one suffers in the next life. But due to being like a blind man, he continues to act in such a way that he suffers unlimitedly. Such a person is a moodha, one who simply wastes his time and does not understand the Lord's devotional service. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham prakash sarvasya yoga maya samahutah mudo ayam navijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, that is Yogamaya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. In the Katha Upanishad, it is also said, Avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhira panditam manyamanaha. Although ignorant people, still go to other blind men for leadership. As a result, both are subjected to miserable conditions. The blind lead the blind into the ditch. We'll also see the next verse, so we can take it together. 5.5.17. Kasvam swayam tad abhigno vipaschet avidyayam antare vartamanam दृष्ट्वा पुनस्तं संघना कुबुद्धिं प्रयोजयत उत्पथंगम uthandham. So here the translation is, if someone is ignorant and attracted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue in this way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashaita Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna once again, all the devotees. So we are in this chapter 5, which is actually the instructions that are being given by Rishabhdeva to his sons. So he's completed his reign, or rather, he has mentally decided that he will give up the throne and then to his eldest son. And then he wants to get into the next stage of his life, which is the Vanaprastha stage. So that is where then he is speaking. And then just for continuity, if you look at the previous verse that we saw day before yesterday, so there, actually, what is Rishabdev trying to say? He's saying that if one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, then he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. So, coming to this platform where we always want to consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the chief aim of life, is what this journey is all about. And in fact, in the purport we saw, actually Prabhupada had not mentioned much in the purport of that previous verse. He just takes the reference of a shloka or a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which is in 3.26. So what does 3.26 say? So it says, Na buddhivedam janaye ajnanam karma sangina joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacha. So it says, let not the wise disrupt the minds of ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should be encouraged not to refrain from work, but to work in the spirit of devotion. So this was what we saw the previous verse. And now we will look up at the two verses. So before we get started, seeking the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Prabhus and Matajis who are here. So kindly bless me so that the right words come at the right time in the right mood in context. And I'm doing this as a purification for myself, for the pleasure of the Lordships, and as a service for my Guru and the Guru family. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Lokan swayam shreyasi nashta drishtir yo arthan samiheta nikhama kamaha anyonya vaira sukalesha hetur ananta dukkham chanaveda moodaha. So here Prabhupada is actually saying that it is only due to ignorance that materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest. So the aspect of how the modern society is functioning, or the people who are in the modern society, how they are functioning, or how they are going about doing their day-to-day activities being discussed in detail here. And such people are actually described as nashta drishtihi, which means that one who has no eyes to see the future. So they are not able to comprehend what is in store for them. So which is not a sign of maturity. It's not a sign of intelligence. It is a sign of foolishness. And that is why the reference is made to moodha, or the foolish people. So what do generally foolish people do? Or anybody who is not so worried about their future, but they are only dependent on sense gratification, then you have a situation where they go on striving, or they go on endeavoring for happiness, but that happiness they want to take through sense gratification. So this is not, this is something that we all are aware of. We ourselves are part of it also. So this thing that you can pictorially see how a person is endeavoring so much, is going behind happiness, of course. There is pursuit of happiness, but that is through sense gratification. So they want to have all the good things that the life or the material life has to offer. And thereby they feel that if my senses are gratified, then it will lead to happiness. So, but then that person is not happy this is something that we have seen practically. I mean, whichever way we look at it, a person is not happy. There might be some temporary happiness that comes in because of sense gratification. So, like, say, a person is buying a new car, and then he wants to be identified with that new car with respect to the others. That is where the problem is. There is nothing wrong in buying a car, but then to use it for going from place A to place B and so on and so forth, then it is fine. But then generally people take it to identify themselves with respect to the car. There is so much of ingrainment with respect to identification of the things that we possess that we even try to call out persons like that. Prabhupada gives this example. He says, there is this person in a busy street in Calcutta who's going in a luxurious car, say a BMW or something. And then there is one Tela fellow who's blocking his way. So he shouts, "Hey, Tela!" So he's moved. So Prabhupada says, "Arey, that person is not a Tela. So you are identifying him with the Tela because he is pushing a Tela or a cart. Tela is a push cart, trying to sell whatever. And he thinks he is BMW. So Mr. BMW is calling out the Tela guy. So, hey, Tela, so please go in the front." So Prabhupada gives this example and tries to bring out the aspect of what is our disposition, what's in a very unconscious way. So Prabhupada says it's not that we are conscious of this fact. It comes out we are so conditioned that it comes out quite naturally. So you start referring to each one by the positions that we have, especially the car. And then, of course, there are other things to deviate us further. So the more there is inventions and new things coming up, there is more and more variety to get distracted to. And then the more we think that we will definitely have happiness. If I have that particular phone which has just come out in the market, then I'll be happy. Or if I have that particular house or the particular gadget and so on and so forth. So in this way, there is a constant endeavor that man is making to pursue happiness. So why is pursuing all these materialistic things? Actually, to pursue happiness. But Shastric knowledge tells us that this kind of happiness is not permanent. So they even go ahead and contend that this is not actual happiness. Why? Because this happiness that is born out of desire, I mean, whatever little happiness that comes because we desire something and then we get it, that is fleeting, it is temporary, and there are other emotions that come in. When there is no happiness, then we try to look around and try to compare ourselves with others. And then we try to see, maybe that person has something more than me, so he's more happier. Maybe this person has something less, so he cannot be that happy. But then sometimes we might see the person who's having less is more happy. So we try to look at the cause, and then we try to come up with something which he has that I don't have. So eventually it will come down to that. Maybe a family, a loving family, maybe it could be anything, maybe more gadgets or any of those things. But then they realize that, or the jiva comes to a conclusion that this is the reason, because I don't have certain thing. And that gives birth to envy. So envy is actually described as a younger brother of desire. So in this picture, you can see how there is this one living being who's got a lot of goodies in her hand, and then the others are all looking on. They look like they're all friends, but then you can see envy, jealousy writ large on their faces. So this is how material world is. Maybe they might cover it up, the smile, and they might pretend that happy, but deep down there is a lot of envy, and that is what is. I'm just trying to capture this moment so that it gives us an idea. Though we might have a front where it's not shown or seen so easily. And now, why is envy the younger brother of desire? Because there is the shloka which talks about Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhava. So now Rajoguna is actually the mother, and these two are the brothers, Kama and then Krodha. Because when Kama is there, which is desire, and then it is not fulfilled in the way it has to be, one expects it to be, and there is no limit to this. It's not like the desire is standard, like, okay, I have this desire, I'm fulfilled, and then it's over. No, it keeps increasing. So once one desire gets fulfilled, then it outgrows itself. Then there is something else. Then there is something else, and it goes on and on. So karma is always trying to, it's moving away from us, and then we are always trying to catch up with it. And in that there is frustration, and frustration is leading to krodha or anger, and then there is also this envy which comes in. So in this way we can understand how envy is actually what follows desire is envy. And this situation is not a very good situation. But unfortunately, in the material world, this is what is happening. And that is what Rishabh Dev is trying to tell his sons. So if you look at the instructions that was given many, many centuries before, or many, many yugas before, and what we see here today, we can actually draw parallels. The nature of the living entity has, in the conditioned world, has not changed. The way pleasure is obtained might change, but then the propensity to enjoy with the senses remains. And this propensity which is remaining with us is actually in the mode of ignorance. But then the current society is not aware of this. Prabhupada is trying to bring that out. So he's saying that whatever happens in the materialistic this thing, it is all because of nashta drishti, and because of nashta drishti, there is also this aspect of anyonya vairaha. So what is anyonya vairaha? Anyonya vairaha is being envious of one another. So we are always envious of one another, and we have lost our sight. Therefore, they are concluding that the current society is full of foolish people, and they're ignorant of many things. They're just behind lusty desires. Now, Prabhupada also takes the reference to a shloka in Bhagavad Gita, and then he says, what does it say? Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudo yam nabhijanati lokomam ajam avyayam. So here Krishna is very clearly saying that I never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. So this is a very serious matter that we'll have to pay attention to. So because if you look at the photo that we had just captured, so any of these photos that you see, so these are people who are foolish because they are only behind sense gratification. And Krishna says, I reserve the right. I don't manifest to the foolish and the unintelligent.
Prabhuji, just 1 minute. Are you sharing some other slides? Something we are just seeing the Veda based thing only.
Right now, yes, Prabhu, I am only sharing this thing of Veda base only. So where we are seeing actually it is all foolishness, and the Lord says that for the foolish entities, I reserve the right. I don't show myself up. I am not. What do you say? The people who are in that particular this thing, they will not be able to know me, and this is what Krishna is very clearly saying in this particular verse. And so now we are in a situation where we are foolish, we are ignorant, and then Krishna has very clearly said that I will not manifest myself for them. Now, okay, let me just try to get that particular shloka. I never manifest to the foolish and the unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. And then here, it says, I mean, they go on, Prabhupada goes on and then describes how all intelligent people have realized this. and then he takes references of Kunti Maharani's prayer, and then he takes a verse from Ishopanishad where it says, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyastapitam Hitam Mukam Tattvam Pushan Abhavarnu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. So, where it says, Oh my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and the devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. So, the intelligent person understands how the Lord is not so easily visible to everybody, and because of the covering of Yoga Maya. And one has to transcend or go beyond the material consciousness. That is when the mercy of the Lord will come. So here, Rishabh Dev is saying that one has to understand that one needs to attract the mercy of the Lord. How do we attract the mercy of the Lord? Not in the present condition where we are just behind sense gratification. So this aspect of we are going behind sense gratification is because of ignorance. So the only way out is to understand, to have some knowledge about the Lord. And then as we begin to understand, that is the Sambandha Jnana, once it becomes more and more clear to us, then we will begin to do activities which are based on the Sambandha that we have understood. So there is Abhideya. And then that Abhideya leads to Prayojana, which is actually the mercy of the Lord. So in every aspect, it is the mercy of the Lord which is a Prayojana. So because if at all we get anything, any Prayojana that is happening, that is only because of the mercy of the Lord. So this is how we can see this connection that is being brought out in these particular verses, which is the verse 16, and then the verse 17 also. So and now, okay, let's just go back to this particular picture. Prabhu, you are able to see this picture, right?
No, Prabhuji. I think we just shared the Safari app, but not complete screen, I guess.
You're not able to see now also?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anyway, I'll continue to talk. So now, what is this particular thing? If you look at, I mean, there are multiple ways in this this particular concept is being brought out. So if you recall, Prabhupada talks about Varga, which is actually giving a synopsis of how a materialistic person is working. Okay. Now, what is this Pavarga? This Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma. So, in this, the first Pa is referring to Parishram or labor or hard work. So, there is a lot of hard work that is happening for getting anything in this material life. So, there is this endeavor that leads to, there is so much of endeavor that a person is doing that it leads to exhaustion. This exhaustion is referred to as Pa, which is pena or foaming. So when there is so much of hard work, then there is foaming in the mouth. And then this is the second letter denotes that particular situation in an endeavoring living entity, a conditioned living entity. And then this leads to frustration. And that frustration actually leads to vyartha or frustration, which is actually bha or bandhan. And then from there, then there is also bhaya, because you would have procured some things because of this hard work. And then there is also frustration or fear. And then that actually, the frustration leads to fear because we might think that I might lose it. So we try to guard it. And then we continue to do this. We continue to do hard work, and then hard work symptom is forming, and then there is frustration, and then there is fear. And we continue to do this cycle till we land up in Ma, which is Mrityu or death. And then again, we get another body and then continue like that. So now Prabhupada is saying an intelligent person will not induce a person to act in this way. So in the next verse, that's 17, Prabhupada actually brings out two categories of people. So what are the two categories of people? People who are in knowledge and the people who are not in the knowledge. So the people who are not in the knowledge are referred to as the blind people. So today, if you look at the society, everybody is blind because there is no proper knowledge that anyone is happening. And that is why this phrase that blind leading the blind, because in society we have leaders themselves are blind. So now how will they be able to lead somebody out properly, taking care of all the pitfalls? No. So they will just end up in a dark well. Not only the person who is leading, the person who is being led, all of them fall into this particular thing. So there is no hope. And that is the situation that is happening. If in the current situation, in the current scenario, so Prabhupada very clearly says that there is a need for the intelligent class of people. This intelligent class of people are the ones who will actually give knowledge to the rest of the society. And then when that knowledge is given, then people will be able to see for themselves where they are going. And then they will avoid those pitfalls of material life and then steer themselves clear in their journeys of life and then move towards God realization or Krishna consciousness. So that is why Prabhupada's main aim was to, he says that, you know, this movement, I mean, Prabhupada started ISKCON to ensure that there are people are becoming learned or learned Brahmanas. Then just knowledge and then carrying out their sadhana is not enough. Then Prabhupada said that you will have to take this knowledge to others. And that is what Rishabh Dev will also say. It says, how can somebody who has the knowledge allow another person to go into the ditch or into the well? That means he is trying to say that a learned person will not allow a normal person and a person in ignorance to go and then fall in the ditch. So this is why it's the same instruction that we see, which is being given even to his sons. And then I'll just try to bring that up 1 minute. Yeah. So if someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who's actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activities and thus further entangle him in material existence, which means that he will not do it. So that is why this concept of if a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on this way to danger? So here the gentleman that Prabhupada is referring to is a Brahmana. The word that is used is Vipaschit. So what is Vipaschit? Vipaschit is a learned scholar or a Brahman. So this person will not allow, and that is why a Brahmana is somebody who has got a lot of compassion, or even a Vaishnava. He is more than a Brahmana. So definitely he has these qualities of a Brahman. So what are the qualities of the Brahmana that generally is there? So the qualities of the Brahmana are Samodhama, and then there is also Titiksha, Arjavam, and then let me just Tapa, Shaucham, and then Astikyam, Jnanam, and Vijnanam. So when they have Jnana and then they have Vijnana, Vijnana is, let's say, they practice it themselves. Then they also have these other qualities of Sama, Dhamma. They are self-controlled, they are peaceful. Then they do a lot of austerity. Then they have purity in them. And then they are Shantar, they are peaceful. And then they also have religiosity. And then they have honesty. Now, these qualities will actually propel them to warn people if there is a danger. So it's quite natural that they will become preachers or they will try to lead society in a way that they are able to see the pitfall ahead and then they try to lead. And even if the other person is rejecting it, still they have the qualities of patience, of endurance, and all of that. So they don't take offense, but they continue to in their endeavor to lead the society in a way that the society is able to see, or some of the members of the society are able to see this pitfall and they are able to save themselves. Thereby, their life becomes successful. So, Rishabh Dev is concluding that a person who is learned will have to prevent a blind person from falling into the well. Only then his life becomes successful. So, this is the sum and essence of what Rishabh Dev is trying to say here. And that is what we are, Prabhupada is also bringing out very nicely in these two translations and also in the purport. Now we saw that people who are blind, there is another quality of them. They for that, it becomes even more difficult to dislodge them um, uh, from their faith or from their beliefs. Because if you look at this, Prabhu, are you able to see this particular picture that I'm sharing now?
No, Prabhuji, we are just seeing this Veda base only.
I don't know why that is happening.
Let me stop sharing. Can you share now, Prabhuji?
Okay, let me do that again. Just a minute, Prabhu. Okay, now you should be able to see.
Yes, Prabhuji, now we see. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so this is pictorially, I was just trying to talk about how a blind is leading the blind. And then though it looks a little funny, but this is how the situation is. The whole society is moving into the ditch. This is what I was talking about earlier. And then there's another quality or another fact that we need to be aware of blind people, because they also have their senses. Even though they are blind, they have the other senses. They don't have the knowledge, but then they have their senses which are working. And then they have deciphered the world in their own way. So, which is like this example of blind man and the elephant. So, each one, based on the experience that they have had with respect to life, they have come to a conclusion of what life is. The analogy here is about blind men touching the various parts of the elephant and then coming to a conclusion what an elephant is. And then they break into an argument. They start off with a discussion saying, oh, you know what, the elephant is like this. It's a long pipe like a thing. And the other one says it's like a wall, and so on and so forth. The other one says it's like a rope. You can see in this picture, each one is touching a particular aspect of the elephant. And then they have come to a conclusion that they have the perfect knowledge of what an elephant is. This is very synonymous to um, people claiming that uh, uh, they have complete idea of what life is and what one needs to do, or what is the solution for this life that we are living, so on and so forth. So you can see how foolish it is. And this is an example. This is an example from the Shastras, where six blind men are touching, and then they have a discussion. Each one is trying to describe the elephant, and then there is frustration because each one's opinion is being varied, and that frustration is leading to argument, krodha, and then there is argument because each one feels that they are right. And in one sense, if you look at it, each one is right in his or her own way, because based on their experience, they have come to a conclusion. So they are not wrong when they are saying that, like the fellow who's touching the tail, he's not wrong when he says it's like a rope. But then it is not inclusive. We can understand that. So till a person who has a complete knowledge of the elephant is able to explain things to these people, they will continue with this particular fight that they are having. And this is what is happening with the world. And Prabhupada actually understood how the world is actually with all this fight. There's more and more fall down that is happening. Why fall down? Because they are uh, each one is trying to better the other, and thereby each one is creating harm to another. So they end up with a lot of unwanted karmas, and now to meet out those karmas, they will have to continue to take birth, more and more birth. So they are actually falling deeper and deeper into the cycle of birth, death, and that is why they are actually getting more and more entangled. Now, an intelligent person, how does he free such people? So it is like we can visualize a person who is drowning, and there are a lot of weeds that are there in that particular water body, say a sea or a river. Now, if the person wants to save himself, he'll have to move his hands and feet. And if he wants to untangle himself from the weeds, and then he tries to vigorously try to untangle himself, then actually the nature of the weeds is such that it will tangle that person more and more. So you have a situation which is very, very precarious, not a very good situation. But then a learned person knows how to do it. So he will give proper instructions, like taking the same example of a person who is drowning. Probably he will tell him to lie still, to float, and then he might throw a rope or a stick or something, and then asking him to hang on to it, and without creating much of a disturbance to the water, so that the weeds again come and then entangle the person. He tries to pull him out gently away from the weeds, and also thereby saving this, and then pull him out to safety. Thereby, he will save him in all ways. But then if he tries to do it himself, then he might entangle himself more, and then thereby cutting off the opportunity to swim and come out, even though if the person knows swimming, but the weeds are so strong that if he goes about aggressively trying to get out of it, then it is not going to give him any result. It will only lead to more entanglement. This is something that we have, anybody who has got experience with weeds will definitely know about it. The weeds in the water body. So they entangle a person more if they try to pull it away from their body, because they know that it is coming and engulfing them, and then they try to push it away or make some vigorous action, then it is not going to help. So they'll have to do it in a nice way. And that is what Shloka 3.26 was all about, where it talked about how one has to, a learned person will not disturb the person who is already entangled by asking him to stop work, but he will do it in a way that they will continue to work, they will continue to have some attachment, but still in a very expert way, in a very intelligent way, ask that person to do devotional service and things like that, so that they will be able to get that individual out of the drowning waters of the material world, which is full of weeds and all. So in this way, and that is what even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said. In fact, what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say when they were discussing, and then they said, which is the best way for the current condition of human beings in the Kali Yuga? There were so many examples were given. Varnashrama was given. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, tell me something better than this. Tell me something better than this, so on and so forth. And then finally, then there is this reference that is made to one particular shloka from Bhagavatam, which talks about Sthane Sthita Shrutigatam Tanuva Manobhi. Bring that shloka up. Prabhu, can we see the shloka? You all are able to see it?
Now we see only slide.
Okay, so maybe I'll have to say new sheet. Okay, 1 second. I think it was my mistake. Yeah, now you should be able to see it.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. So this particular shloka, when it was quoted, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, this is the best way for anybody to get out of the material world, especially in Kali Yuga. In this, I'll not go into the whole verse, but this is the phrase that is being used. Sthane sthita shruti-gatha tanuva manobhir. It says that an individual will continue, or we don't have to disturb him. They will remain where they are. So they are in a particular position, like a particular guna they are exhibiting. So don't disturb them too much. Sthane sthita shruti, but then engage them. Shruti, engage their ears to hear things. And then engage their body, that is tanu, that is the body, for doing some devotional activities. And then vak means help them to chant. So hearing, chanting, and then devotional service. So when these things are done, then they will automatically be able to come out of it. And this is the best thing for Kali Yuga. And that is the basis on which this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement was founded. And of course, we are associated to that, and we are coming in the same parampara. So if you look at all the acharyas, right from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu downwards, all the Guru parampara, all the Gurus who have come, everybody has brought out the same aspect of how you can be in whatever situation one is in. It could be, a person could be in a situation where there is a lot of Rajogun, or a lot of Tamogun, or a lot of Satugun also. But then all of them have only one aim in life, which is to engage in devotional service. Engagement of senses in devotional service, starting with hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam. So chanting, of course, chanting the Mahamantra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the Mahamantra to us, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But then, after we have accepted this mantra and then we do our chanting, now we have become a little learner, or we are able to see things, or at least, even though we don't have the conviction, but theoretically we are aware of the pitfalls of material life. So we will have to take this particular knowledge to others. So that is why Prabhupada always says everybody should become a preacher. Now, somebody was saying, like Prabhupada, when he was talking about this, he said, but Prabhupada, I don't know the whole Shastra, so how can I be a preacher? So Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter. Sorry. At that moment, there was this little girl, Saraswati, I think. So, who was there, the part of the congregation. So, this little girl, what she used to do is she just barely started to talk and then started to walk. So, she was in the temple because her parents were in the temple. So, now this small child, whoever comes, she used to go and then say, do you know Krishna? And then that other person used to say, no. Then he'll say, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And then she'll go to the next person. Then, so Prabhupada took this example and says, look at Saraswati, baby Saraswati. She does preaching. When she is doing, then why can't you? And she is giving the essence. There is nothing more to be given. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So you just give that knowledge. So Prabhupada was trying to say that whatever you know is sufficient for you to preach. That doesn't mean that we should stop learning or getting more knowledge. But Prabhupada was trying to bring out the aspect that we have accepted the movement, we have chanting, we have faith in the holy name, and then we have faith in Krishna. Maybe that faith is very little, it is not too much. Somebody else might have more, but still continue to preach, continue to give that message to others. Ask them, engage them. Sthane sthita shrutigata tanuva manobi. So engage them in hearing. Engage means you can do kirtan and then they will hear. Engage their words. I mean, engage them through their words. That is, make them to chant. And then give them some seva. Prabhu, can you just help me do this? Or tie this flower like this? Or help me with the ratha. That is what they did. In fact, when people were signing up and everything was happening and the movement was expanding, whoever came to the society, they were given a work, a simple task. And that, I think that example, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj also gives that example, where he says when he joined first, the first thing he was told was to drive nails into, they were making the ratha, so he was told to drive nails. So the moment he came there, he said, okay, can you drive nails? He was asked by by Jay, and then His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj said, yes, I can do that. Then he said, come here, hold this nail and drive it. And then he was given a job. So they just engaged them in doing some seva. And then they just engaged them in singing or doing kirtan, and which is both Shravanam and Kirtanam. So in this way, the movement spread. And that is exactly what Rishabh Dev is also telling his sons. He says that whatever, let them be in whatever situation they are in, but please continue, let them continue, but then engage them in seva. That is what we are seeing in these two verses. So on this, I will just stop here. I mean, if there are any questions, comments, we can, or any discussions or anything that I've said, it did not make sense or it was not very clear. People can definitely go ahead and then add so that we will have the proper understanding or better understanding. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much. And kindly once again, excuse me for this terrible voice that I had. So Hare Krishna and Dhanasvanam.
Thank you so much. Even though like your voice, you are not well, still like your voice was very audible and it was nice, and you have taken time to enlighten us. And like the points that you mentioned about like blind people leading the blind that we are experiencing now also, and even the power ga, like all the IT people at least know what is this for sure. And you mentioned about like how come a knowledge person can allow the ignorant fall into the ditch. So these are like very profound statements, and the propensity to enjoy with senses always remain. That is because of our ignorance, and we don't know whom to serve. Thank you so much, Rohit. Like very wonderful points, and with the uh, very nice illustrations of the with pictures, like it was easily understood. So devotees, like lights are already unmuted. You can unmute and ask any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. That was pronounced.
Prabhuji, this Bhagavatam 10.14.3 Prabhu,
Yeah.
here, that is to come out of this material world, we have to engage in devotional service. That's what it means, no Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. We can be wherever we are, but then engage, include Krishna. So that is what we say, right? Just bring in Krishna into your life while you continue to do what you are doing. And that is what is the sum and essence of these verses that we are seeing. What Rishabdev said, or what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu vouched for and said this is the best way for Kali Yuga. All of it is aligning to the same.
Hari. So
And
very
this
nice.
learned person, how he is leading a Nashta Drishti, a blind person. I've just shown it pictorially how a devotee is actually leading the blind man. This is an example again given by Prabhupada himself.
Hari. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nicely narrated, Prabhu. Especially one individual should engage here and help the audience to chant also. And whatever we know, even a little, that has to be preached. It was so impressive, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you. Again, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Krishna Prabhuji, I have one doubt, like not doubt, like the things that we are seeing. So earlier, like at least we used to hear from the guru, like face to face, and also we used to get the instructions or like culture that is being followed in the family by the elders. So these days, like we think, okay, that is a very like ancient or not. I mean, it's not applicable for the current age. And also, like parents also thinks that okay, anyway, like he will not listen or they will not listen by to disturb him. And we also think even if we have like we think we don't have time to listen all those things, and because of that, like so-called modernization or like globalization things. So because of this, like we are missing the like the culture that is being followed in the family or these things. So like sometimes like even when I ask my father or when he tries to tell me like I might be busy, when I try to ask, he thinks okay, I mean anyway you're not doing agriculture, what is the use for you? So like how to like uh what should be the like way to ask to get the information that is being followed or how to preserve the culture in this? Because here also like we see when Rishabhadev wants to retire, so he is giving the knowledge to the sons so that they like by heart they follow. But
Prabhuji, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Prabhu. You are completing.
yes, bro, like how to like get the information and also like what should be our mood to listen and how to think like whether those are applicable now or might we can tweak a little bit and then still like preserve the spirit behind those things.
Yeah, nice question, Prabhu. Pretty long question, but I think I get what you're saying because most of the time we understand these instructions that we just discussed today, which talks about whatever little we know, we just tell people, which we continue to do. Not that we are not doing, but then somewhere down the line, there's some amount of frustration that comes in. Correct, no, Prabhu? Means, or we might get discouraged trying to do that. Why we get discouraged? Because we attach some sort of an expectation or an outcome from it. I am telling them, but they are not listening. So we are actually behaving in a materialistic platform. Prabhu, I'm just giving you a theoretical answer. It is not that I'm practicing. So because of this aspect that we are preaching in a materialistic plane with some expectations of results, then this frustration comes or we get disappointed. And then we take a stance that anyway, I've told them so many times, and then we stop. But actually, if you see Rishabdev's teachings in the earlier verses, I remember when we attended these classes, Rishabdev very clearly says whether they listen or not, whether they react angrily or whatever it is, just give that instruction or continue to give that instruction. because that is what, especially when a father is giving to the son or a child, they won't listen the first time, the second time, they know that, but still continue to give that. The fact that they are giving these instructions is what sets apart the instruction of a father to the child compared to other places, because there we are somehow able to swallow our ego because it is we are identifying with the God. So if we think everybody is part and parcel of Krishna, we are all brothers, then there is a relationship, then without any expectation of, oh, I said and then they are not following, we'll not get into that, but we continue to tell them. So this is a very theoretical way, but then it is not possible. So how do I bring that into make it practical? Okay, frustration comes in, but we try to overcome that. Disappointment comes in, but we try to overcome it. That is why they say Dhrida Vrata. Whenever we are doing our sadhana or when we are preaching, we have to be, especially when we are preaching, we have to be enthusiastic. Prabhupada says elsewhere, where he says very clearly that we have to show enthusiasm if we are not enthusiastic. Because our enthusiasm is not there, because even though we are handling transcendental matters, but then because we are looking at it in a material plane, our enthusiasm goes down. We become discouraged. Then bring that out. It's okay. Try to show enthusiasm and then try to chant or try to preach. So apply it that way. I mean, that is what I try to do. I mean, I'm not saying I do it. Try to bring in some enthusiasm, even though we are discouraged. It happens with me. So I'm just sharing it from that perspective, Prabhu. So, and this is very synonymous with other people also, I believe, because all of us get frustrated. But then we should not be so attached to that outcome of that. I am telling him, he's following. And then sometimes if he follows, he or she follows, then we become proud. That's another angle. That's another aspect. So whether they follow or whether they don't follow, either way, we get influenced by that. So we'll have to keep that away. And then just do it as an act of service to Srila Prabhupada, to the movement, to Krishna. That is why now Prabhupada says, no, even when there is nobody, they used to preach when nobody was sitting in the room also. He just spoke, he said, do. And then he used to give a lecture which was filled with so much of enthusiasm because he knew there were other people there. They were convinced, but we are not convinced. We see a blank room or a blank empty chairs, but then we just try to take on that aspect of trying to show enthusiasm, though it might be made up, it might not be spontaneous, but that is what sadhana bhakti is all about. So do it and then continue in that way. Thereby, we'll attract some mercy from Krishna, and that will make our life that much more successful. This is my take on that. I don't know if I answered you.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Any other devotees with questions?
Prabhu, can you show that first picture? That person with the goodies is one. And the second thing, what you were telling about, with the child.
Yes, Mataji. I saw your message. I should have done that before. I'm sorry. I'll try to show that now. I hope you're able to see the screens now.
Yes, Prabhu. Screen we can see.
Yeah. So I'll just try to give this continuity. So this is where we started off. We said we are not happy. So this is a situation which we can all identify. And then that gives birth to envy. And this is what is the picture that I was trying to share, which did not share, unfortunately, because of my, I didn't share it properly. So there it is. So there's this Mata who's having all the goodies. And the others, all of them are friends, but then you can see the envy written large. And this is our condition. And this envy is because of Kama, Kamesha, and then Krodha, and then Rajoguna. We know from Bhagavad Gita that it leads to envy. So there are shlokas that help us understand this aspect. And then the Pavarga is it's just another way of looking at how we are working. And that is why Prabhupada concluded that everybody is blind because we are not having the knowledge. And then the blind leading the blind. Everybody looks at the other and then they are trying to follow or being led. And that is a funny situation. And then that situation becomes even more worse because the blind people, they have their own opinions also. And that we could understand by this example of the elephant, each one touching a certain part. And then they are claiming their knowledge of elephant is that only. And they're all right in their own way. You can't call them wrong. So generally we try to do that. No. We start off with an argument saying, no. We should avoid that. If a person says, this is my understanding of life, we'll have to see where it is tallying or where it is tick, because definitely it will be a tick, because that person has got some experience and then he has come to some conclusion. So somewhere we can find that thread and then say it is not just that. It is like looking at a part, it is like looking at the tail, but then we have to have an understanding of the whole elephant and bring out other concepts also. And that is what is Sthane Sthita Shrutigatam Anuatmanobhi, which is allowing that person to continue to be where he is, but trying to introduce new things to that person. And that is what an Avipaschit does. And this is that picture I thought I'd share. So I know I just put it across clumsily, but this is the thought flow that I want to bring out. I hope that clarifies now, Mataji. Thank you for giving that opportunity to go over all that once again. Thank you.
And very nicely you explained, Prabhu, whether it is my children or your children or anybody's children, they will not listen to us. They will in fact listen to a third person better than us. Yeah. Thank you.
That is
wonderful. Yes.
By allowing a third person to talk to him, we are actually giving that detachment. We are more interested in the result rather than in I am saying or my son, and the attachment we are trying to sever. Yeah.
Actually, my daughter's clinic, just behind the clinic is Boston Temple. And she had a bad experience when she went on the first time. She refuses to go. And I just met Madhuri. I told her, please talk to her, tell her slowly, And then later on, I can reinforce. I was just telling her. So very nicely, aptly, you have told this part today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, in fact, that's a good point that you brought out, because even in our temple, we see there are many neighbors who are not so favorable. They keep complaining. Sometimes we take the stance like, why are they acting like that? Can't they understand that it is Krishna that we are trying to do? But we fail to see it from their perspective. So the whole aspect is trying to align ourselves to them, to their needs, acknowledge it at least, say that, yes, it shouldn't have happened, but it has happened. And then, identify that discomfort that they have had. That will make them more approachable as we move forward. And that is exactly what His Grace Narari Prabhu tries to tell. He says, don't pick up a fight or don't get into right and wrong. Just try to look at it from their point of view and then try to include them. The all inclusivity has to come up. It will only come up by taking care of these outliers. Outliers are the ones who have negative opinions and who are near to the temple. So since you brought out that example, I thought it is very relevant here also, Mataji. So thereby we are able, and that is what is actual preaching. That is what Prabhupada wanted. Narari Prabhu says so many times, he has repeated. He said, this is exactly the mood of Prabhupada. He never turned down somebody at the cost of someone else, or he was not judgmental. He allowed everybody. I mean, that famous example of somebody bringing a tissue, toilet paper, and then giving it to the deities or giving it to Prabhupada, something like that, where he didn't take offense. He said his seva has started. He was able to view it from that perspective. So this is very important. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Due to time constraint,
we'll go ahead.
We'll end the class here with Vaishnava Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yes. वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरुदेव की जय, गौर सीतनाथ परमानंदे हरि हरि बोल, श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, ऋषभदेव भगवान की जय. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the enlightening class, and thanks all, Prabhuji. Tomorrow again we'll meet at 7:15.